flooded.
I can remember
Baltimore
snowstorms in
schools flooded.
'69 where we had 3 foot of snow in Eugene.
Yeah.
We
But I
lived
think,
through it. We lived through all of it.
what about 1707?
17.
Yeah, the last Cascadia subduction
That was
earthquake, somewhere
that was
around
when my
there.
mother was born.
So, we, as Lisa kind of alluded to, we haven't really tried to stress the public safety risk to not alarm people, but there is serious concern that is growing as the canal is out of service. The soils there are desiccating, so they're drying up, they're becoming weaker, and UWEB is on the hook for liability if anything were to happen, like the floods that happened in Texas or North Carolina last year.
Hold it.
So we could have a really, we get a lot of rain here, as the flood of 66 and 96, 64 and 96 show. And that is a serious problem. That is a serious problem that Johnson Creek and Cogswell Creek would put on a lot of water. And that's something that I'm sure keeps Mark up at night. And as UWEB's values include safety as well, we have a different kind of meeting if there is some sort of a canal collapse in this community. And that's our number one responsibility, is to prevent that from happening. So it is a what if, it is a when is it going to happen. We know the Oregon Emergency Management, Department of Emergency Management says there's about a 37% chance that we're going to have a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake in the next 50 years. But we're not going to roll the dice. We're going to do what we have to do to protect people. And that's a serious concern. And I think it's hard for the community to see. It's hard for us to paint that picture. It's not something we want to emphasize and scare you, but it is a real concern that we have to deal with.
I think Mark.
Yeah, I thought I'd make just a couple of comments, because related to the flood and the seismic discussion that's been going on, and public safety driver. As Lisa's been saying, we have a value around safety, and then beyond that, the regulatory requirements that we're required to comply with that safety value is enforced by our regulator, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So just a couple of anecdotes. 1964 flood that some of you are familiar with having experienced, it sounds like, which we safely passed. I'm proud to say the Lieber Dam had all 3 of its roll gates wide open, and it actually had no problem passing that flood. Obviously, lots of properties got flooded downstream, but the dam itself did not worsen the flooding effect. It effectively passed that flood. That was a 1 in 100 year return frequency event. Our regulators require that our facilities be capable of safely passing a 1 in 10,000 year event. That wasn't the case when we relicensed the project in 1990. That stringency of flood capability has increased from that point in time. Likewise, on the seismic side of things, in 1990, when this is actually a question fielded from one of our board members, like, why did UWEB decide to continue operating this canal that was built in the 1920s using these rudimentary construction techniques that have very poor seismic performance capability? Why was UWEB in the 90s willing to take that risk? And the reason is that in the 1990s, the Cascadia subduction zone event was unknown. We thought that the state of Oregon was not seismogenic, that we didn't have earthquakes. And since the 1990s, we've come to understand that the most recent one was 300 years ago. That's what Adam was referring to with the 1700 date. And beyond that, that particular event wasn't necessarily as big an event as we can have. Just like on the flood side of things, our regulator requires us to be able to safely manage a 10,000 year flood event. They also require that we be able to safely weather a 10,000-year seismic event. And we haven't, that's more than 300 years. We're talking like the worst of the worst potential Cascadia subduction zone events is what our facilities need to be able to sustain safely in order for us to be compliant with safety standards. So it's a different world now. We now understand that we can experience a 9.0 earthquake. That's the 1 in 10,000 year return frequency. We also know more about the soils underlying the canal and the soils that the canal is constructed from, and now know, based on new information that we just have gathered here in the last few years, and in the course of making these strategic evaluation decisions, that we're not only is the hazard higher than we realize, but our vulnerability due to the presence of liquefiable soils is higher. So it has all played into a better understanding of the vulnerabilities and the costs that would be necessary to upgrade the facilities to safely sustain through those potential hazards.
Bob? I have a question. What's the feasibility of recompaction in the canal using modern techniques, modern equipment, and appropriate lining?
Yeah, and so that's precisely what we, in the course of the development of strategic evaluation, we were costing out at a conceptual level. And in many areas, it would, because the soil quality is so poor, we would have to remove what's there now and bring back in
Clay-based?
Actually, so depending on depending on the component of the embankment, either the fine grained clays are what you want for its seepage prevention capability, and other places you want strong soils that are not susceptible to deformation during a shaking event. So the other parts of the embankment you would want to construct with granular fills. But yes, it's not what's in the embankment now. Could it be constructed? Absolutely. You can build you can build earthen embankments capable of surviving a severe earthquake. But it's extremely expensive. That's the high costs that you were seeing for the full return to service, because that's what it assumed, is that we would need to reconstruct portions of the embankment. We would need to improve its water retaining capabilities to address internal erosion threats. So all that together is over 5 miles of canal is what explains these high costs that we were coming up with.
I just recently happened to come across a piece online that talks about a new material that's just being delivered. It's a sheet of what is essentially concrete and wire that rolls out. It's designed specifically for canals and irrigation ditches and so forth. And once it's dampened, it becomes solid concrete. Have you ever looked at that?
Yeah, that's one of the materials that what were considered for lining purposes, and that's an effective alternative for lining. And if it's lining a strong embankment material, it can survive an earthquake. But you need the combination of the two. The liner is great for protecting you from internal erosion hazards, but you also need that strong embankment material to
lay it against, yeah.
to lay against, correct?
Thank you. You have another question out here, Bob?
We do?
And
We have been to several meetings and we appreciate all your input, especially the one where you listed out the different alternatives for transportation options. And I'm hoping that my plea, I guess, is that number 5 kind of rises to the top for several reasons. One is constructing a bridge before you tear down doesn't impede. I live on Weaver Dam Road, so it's important to me. But the other thing is that it also seems that there would be less time for for emergency, medical, fire, etc. to get in, and if there's an evacuation, we would be able to get out, versus other options that you've given. So I guess my plea is I hope that option 5 comes rising to the top in your options.
Thank you. We know you're not here to talk about the transportation plan, so.
Okay, that's pretty much the end, and we're up on time. I don't think it'll come as a great shock to you to know that probably most people weren't actually hearing the answers they wanted to hear. But we very much appreciate you giving us the information you had and keeping it real and being honest about what you said. And coming out at the end of a work day to do this must be pretty rough. So thank you very much. It's in the eWeb tradition to work overtime, I hear, so thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks again. I do appreciate the thought that went into this and the ability to just have some real conversation. I know we didn't provide you with the answers that you were hoping to hear, but we were and have been honest, and we will continue to be. So thank you.
Please grab something to snack on your way out the door.